Hey,
Yeah, hi there.
hi
Happy
there.
Wednesday, everybody. Here we are to have another conversation about a very important topic today, wouldn't you say?
I think it's the most important topic these days. The
And
slap heard round the world.
I think we know what slap we're referring to. In case you haven't heard what that slap is, it's the infamous Will Smith Oscar slap. And he just happened to get a lot of promotion as a result of that
Well, I think
slap.
he gets the award for the need for emotional mastery. That's for sure. I
But
think
we've all been there, but we don't have millions of people watching us at one point. Um,
exactly.
so it's awareness, it's lack of awareness, it's the
It
whole
shows
thing,
you shows you what happens when the amygdala, the snake brain takes over and
right?
says, "Okay, go do this," and 5 minutes later you go, "What did I just do?"
Well, that was an amygdala hijack if I ever saw one, and
Absolutely.
just it just as my mother used to say, it come over him, and he just could not hold himself back. But we are going to be talking about this today, an extremely important topic, and we are Dave and Laura Butler of Work Life Consulting. And what we talk about each week are topics such as this that affect our emotional mastery. We provide executive coaching for individuals and help teams with the support they need to work better together and therefore support the organization. So back to the slap heard.
Well, it certainly shows us, the importance of leaders. Leaders are the ones that are on stage usually. They get up and you know talk with people, and everybody looks to them to see what's the acceptable behavior. When it's a situation like that, you realize just how close to the surface violence is, getting lost in the moment is. You look back 5 minutes later, and you don't even. It's almost like you weren't there. It's like an out of body experience. One of our clients recently told me the story of he was in a meeting, and I guess there was dissension in the team, and it was a difficult day, and there was all kinds of things bothering him. And he suddenly we realized that he was wondering who somebody just stood up and walked out of the room, and he suddenly realized it was him. It was such an out of the body experience, but that's what happens. Our mind just takes over, and before we know it, we're three sheets to the wind. We're halfway down the road, and we go like, "How did I get here?"
Well, and I've been there, not to the extent of what Will Smith exhibited, but maybe in a smaller audience.
Well,
And
sure,
we've all done it. And, even Howard Stern said, this is a call for help. So, to say the least. But I think before we reach that point, I mean, there were triggers, probably multiple triggers along the way that
right.
just, was hit the eject button and I'm off.
Well, it's usually because of pressure. He's pressure. You're in the Oscars. You're waiting to find out if you won Best Actor. I mean, there's a lot of pressure on all of that, and a lot of money exchanged, and a lot of deals being made, and all kinds of things that are relying on it. But it's funny how one little thing like that can just it's like the straw that broke the camel's back idea.
Well, you look
Along with
those are the situations where you say to yourself, oh, if only I'd
yeah.
if only I held myself back. If only I thought
Why
first.
why did I do that? Why did I say that?
And we've talked about, I mean, you reminded me of the tennis player that did the same thing, that he was ejected from the game, slammed his racket down. You don't do that on the world stage of tennis. And so it happens, the pressure builds up. But I think what happens is what we have here on the screen, it requires that intention and connection. So
Yeah.
there was something in the model with Will Smith that he felt disconnected from, and probably disconnected from himself
Oh, that's for sure.
to start with. And it requires us to step back, hold the phone,
Hmm.
self-awareness, and
Right.
which is our key program that we offer is emotional mastery. And now we're getting more requests. When is that program coming out again? I think it's because of the pressure that everybody's under.
Yeah, and I think that, the big part of it is to be able to recognize and know what your triggers are. There's usually some precipitating event that hits just the right button at the right time, and before I know it, I'm totally out of control. I don't even know why half the time why I did what I did.
Exactly. And so with this program that we've worked on for years, and it's the foundation of emotional intelligence, basically, is to help leaders of not only now, but the future leaders. Because, the other piece, and you look at the world stage and such a visible event as the Oscars, and there were young girls there who he was an actor with in the movie King Richard. And so they see the future, they're looking at and observing people as adults. And is this the way they want to learn?
Yeah.
There's a responsibility there that we need as adults to master our emotions and recognize when those buttons are being touched. And then what do we do? That's the question.
Well, I think, first thing is to recognize is self-awareness, but self-mastery, which is the second, self-management, self-mastery is the second step, which is understanding how to mute the effect of those triggers. Not just leave them wide open. And, I know that there's certain things that set me off, there's certain things that set you off. Well, I don't have to change the world, but I can just master me. There's some way that I can mute some of those triggers, and I can be aware of the fact that certain situations I can notice that I'm heading down the road. I don't have to wait until I'm at the crossroads. I understand that I'm taking a different route suddenly.
Yeah, and I think this is key. Emotions are separate from our intellect, and that is not the case. The idea, that's why it's emotional intelligence. There's a way to, and I think what it requires of us is that we share emotions. And what happens if we do? Are we potentially viewed as overly emotional? Oh, no, they're such a crybaby.
Well, I think unfortunately we all carry with us ghosts of the past. Back in the 1900s and 1950s, even when we were getting out of school in the 60s and 70s. And the idea that emotions were sort of seen as being unreliable. There was no place for it in business because, we make hard decisions and it's just facts. Well, of course, during all that time, everybody's wrestling with their feelings and their emotions. And, it absolutely has something to do with what's going on. You can't ignore them. But yet that's been the sort of the mantra over the years has been, they're unreliable. I can't trust them.
Right. So in answer to the request of when are you going to launch that program again, we will be coming out shortly with this particular program. And let me get that. To talk a little bit about this as I'm looking. Here we go. Hide that. So the idea is that we are going to be launching our program, our key program, which is Emotional Mastery, the Key to Your Leadership Impact. And the evolution of this has been many years of our work. And why are we offering this? Why is it so important? And if there's ever a time, it certainly is now, leaders need to lead with intention. That's number one. How do we help leaders to do that? It's being very clear, very intentional with the work they do to inspire their teams. And, people are looking. We had a conversation today about the importance of being mindful as a leadership team of what the rest of the organization is potentially seeing. Then this way we can establish connection quicker. So there isn't this big, long gap of figuring out who people are because it builds trust. It builds connection and that ability to tell you how I feel, to talk about it openly, to
Well,
tell
and
you
then,
the story of how I got to where I am.
and there's new people joining the team all the time. There's new people in the organization. Just the shifting dynamics of business today. There's new people that you're introduced to every day, whether they're customers or employees or their partners or they're co-conspirators. I mean, one way or another, you need to be able to establish emotional connection. It's not all intellectual.
Right. And what it does for the individual, awaken that passion that's internal that may not have been ignited for a while. So it's giving you the ability to tap into what that emotion is, what that ability is as a leader or as a team member to be able to really see, what's going on.
And it
Uh,
takes a lot of work and a lot of rehearsal and a lot of self-exploration to be able to get in front of all this.
well, I
The,
think
the,
if we jump to the how, my favorite part of this program is the weekly or bi-weekly, coaching calls. It depends
right.
on how we set it up. But that way we hear from each other. It's
Mhm.
not just the Laura and Dave Butler show. It's the ability to partner up with people outside of your organization and hear what their struggles are. How do they handle it? What
Right.
creates emotional mastery for them?
Right. It's the real-time feeling to it. It's not theoretical. It's got actual experience that you can share your experience. We share ours, and the other people in the group can also share. That's where we get a chance to see what really goes on, what really happens.
Exactly. And then the what we cover is why do emotions matter? And it certainly, we tend to overlook that. Oh, I'll just bury them, that they won't show up. Well, yeah, they might show up on the world stage
Right.
somewhere, and how we handle those emotions once they are identified. And there are 5 EQ domains, and we go deeper into those domains, such as self-awareness that you mentioned, such as how do I relate better to others, which then creates more motivation for me to want to do that. And then what are the personal social competencies around EQ that we need to know about so that we can align with that and help ourselves and people we work with to understand that as well.
How do they play out on a day-to-day basis? How do they get incorporated into the relationships and the interactions we have?
And then creating a plan for the future.
Right.
So,
I love this list. I can't wait to sign up for it. Oh, wait a minute. I'm the one that's going to be delivering it.
the wait list. So I will put this in the chat comment box actually, and after the live stream is done, and so we'll have a record there. But we are creating the final pieces to the actual launch date, so we will be happy to share that. And any closing comments?
Well, I think what strikes me the most is the fact that there's how things can revert to violence. Whether it's violence and emotional violence or it's physical violence. We have this short fuse is out there for everybody, and you see it with road rage. You see it on the street. You see people getting out of line. When there was major shooting in California the other day, because somebody disagreed with somebody. I mean, it wasn't a robbery. It wasn't anything like that. It came from some altercation where people just had a different view of the world. It just seems to me that we must be able to do better than that.
As humans.
Yeah. If we don't, I don't know what to think.
Well, the interesting piece, I did a facilitation of a workshop last week, and I integrating our tool, which is a part of the emotional mastery program, the Berkman method, and I asked for aha moments as a checkout, and
Right.
one person said humanity. And I thought that was really interesting because it's so important that doing this work helps humanity overall.
Yeah, that's right. Every little bit we do adds to the effort to try and improve the world, improve our relationships, and there's certainly a lot we can do.
So on closing, we always close with our friend Elliot Lewis music, ElliotLewis.com. He'll be visiting an area near you, I'm sure. But thanks for listening, and thanks for being a part of our live stream today. If you're joining us on the recording, thanks for doing that as well. And we'll be here next week. And anything you'd like to hear us talk about, just let us know. Bye.
We're always here.